So as the thumbnail suggests, uh, this session is of dual objectives. One is to inform you about the cutoff date for the current affairs section, and two is to discuss the important questions from the September month current affairs. The first one which I would like to address is about the cutoff date. So according to the CLAT consortium, uh, in a YouTube live which was taken by the former Secretary Treasurer of the Consortium of National Law Universities, Mr. Sudhir Krishnaswamy, who is our friend, guide, and philosopher, he said that the cutoff date for current affairs is a day before the actual examination. That is, the exam is on 28th. So the cutoff date for current affairs is the 27th of September 2020. But do you think, do you really think that they will be able to update the questions on the 27th of September? The answer to this is no. It is practically impossible because after framing the questions, they need to recheck the questions, they need to recheck the options, and another major impediment in updating the question a day before is the verification or the trial runs which takes place in the entire examination centers across India. After framing the questions, in order to ensure the smooth conduct of the actual examination, they will conduct some trial runs, and this cannot happen in a day or two. So it might take a week or two. So the ideal date for current affairs is the 15th of September, or just 2 weeks before the actual examination. And remember, uh, there is nothing wrong, or you're not going to lose anything if you prepare till the 27th of September. Being a law aspirant, you must be curious to learn the current events, to understand them, and to develop a perspective on the same. So there is nothing wrong in updating till 27th of September. That is highly recommendable. So this is about the cutoff date, and now let me proceed into the questions, or let me proceed in the discussion of the important questions from the September month current affairs. Now I'll not be presenting it with the help of PPT. I'll just discuss the questions. I've brought my own handwritten notes here. So I have figured out some 6 important topics from the September month, that is from the 1st to 15th of September. One is a negative GDP growth, and two is a act of God or force majeure, which was recently cited by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman as a part of GST cess. And next thing is ban 2.0, that is recently the government has banned 116 mobile apps. So earlier 59 were banned, that was ban 1.0, and this is ban 2.0. And another thing is about the Keshwanand Bharti. He died recently, and I'm expecting either a legal reasoning passage, that is a passage on basic structured doctrine, or Keshwanand Bharti case, or some questions in the current affairs section. And two important Shanghai meetings took place in the September month. One is a Shanghai Defense Ministers meet, and two is the Shanghai External Affairs or the Foreign Affairs Ministers meet. So the objective of this session is not to cover all these topics in a greater detail, but the objective of this is to ensure, or is to deliver the questions that may be asked by the CLAT consortium in the actual examination. Now, the first topic which I would like to discuss is the negative GDP growth. So, India has witnessed negative GDP growth, that is a GDP growth of minus 23.9% in the first quarter. So, what is first quarter? It is from April to July. You know, the financial year in India starts from the month of April. So, in the first quarter, the contraction of GDP or the negative growth of GDP was witnessed, that is 23.9%. So this can be the first and the basic question. And the next question that can be asked is, India has witnessed 23.9% negative growth in the first quarter of the financial year 2020. But one sector, only one sector among all the eight, has witnessed a positive growth. What is that sector? So that is the agriculture sector. It has witnessed 3.4% growth. Agriculture is the only sector that has witnessed a positive growth, that is 3.4% growth, and all the seven sectors, that is in calculating GDP there are eight major sectors, and out of that eight, seven witnessed negative growth. Only agriculture sector witnessed positive growth, that is 3.4%. Next question is, what is recession? Recession is something, if in a financial year, if a country witnesses negative growth in two consecutive quarters, that is in first quarter and second quarter, or in second quarter and third, and in third and fourth, so consecutive terms, then it is called as recession. Negative growth for two consecutive times in a financial year, that is recession. So India has witnessed recession in India has witnessed recession how many times? So till date, India has witnessed recession four times. One is in 1957 and 58. That is because of drought. At that time, we witnessed minus 1.2% growth. That is negative growth. And in 1965 and 66, we witnessed minus 3.66 growth. That is also because of drought. And in 1972 and 73, we have witnessed minus 0.32 growth. That is because of oil crisis in the Middle East. And in 1979 and 1980, we have witnessed 5.2% negative growth. That is minus 5.2% growth. That is again attributable to the oil crisis in the Gulf region, and also the drought that India has faced at that particular point of time. So this 5.2% is the largest negative growth that India has ever witnessed. So you might ask the question, or even CLAT consortium might ask, uh, this in this quarter India has witnessed 23.9% negative growth, and it should be the largest negative growth. But no, that is the wrong answer. So CLAT consortium will confuse you. It will give you some options, and which is the largest negative growth that India has ever witnessed. So they will definitely give an option of 23.9% if they frame this question in order to confuse you. But that is not the case, because the negative growth is calculated for the entire year, so for the entire financial year. So this we have witnessed only in the first quarter. So if they have mentioned the first quarter, then this will be the right answer. But if they are mentioning financial year, then 1979 and 80 financial year is the right answer, with the minus 5.2% negative growth. And this year we are expecting minus 5% growth, that is 5% negative growth for the entire financial year of 2020-21. And next possible question which can be asked is, who calculates GDP in India, or which ministry is responsible for calculating GDP in India? That is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is responsible for calculating GDP in India. So earlier, there were two offices under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. One is the CSO, that is Central Statistical Organization, and two is the NSSO, that is the National Sample Survey Office. These two offices were merged together and formed as NSO, or the National Survey Office, uh, in May 2019. Yes, in May 2019, these two were merged. So this can also be a probable question. And who is the minister for the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation? So the answer is Rao Indrajit Singh. Rao Indrajit Singh is a minister for statistics and program implementation. If you look at the sample papers, they have asked many questions about the ministers as well. So when they have uh, asked questions about the Amazon forest fires, they asked who is the environment minister in India, that is Prakash Javadekar. So that could be one of the probable questions. And next topic on which I would like to discuss the questions is the force majeure, or and the act of God, which were recently cited by the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman. As a part of GST reforms, or as a part of indirect tax reforms, in 2016 government has introduced what we call the GST, or the goods and service tax. So some states have actually opposed the GST because they are going to lose some tax revenue if all the indirect taxes are subsumed into GST. So to compensate these tax revenue, central government has promised the states to pay the GST cess. So this GST cess would be paid to the states by the center under to uphold the concept of cooperative federalism. Now, Nirmala Sitharaman has said that the current situation in which the economy is running is something like an act of God. So the point here is center has not paid the states the GST cess, which it is legally and constitutionally bound to pay. What Nirmala Sitharaman has cited the reason for this, that is, it is an act of God. So when the situation of act of God rises, the Indian Contract Act gives rise to force majeure clause. So what is this force majeure clause? Contracts can be contracts cannot be enforced when a force majeure is likely to occur. So what is it? You must know the difference between force majeure and act of God. And even a question was asked in the legal reasoning section in one of the sample papers that was issued by the Consortium of National Law Universities. Act of God is a narrower concept, whereas force majeure is a broader concept. Force majeure includes both act of God and also the circumstances which are made by humans as well. So this is how this is what some of the background about force majeure and also act of God. The next question is, which department or which ministry has called this period, that is a period from March to April, as a force majeure period? That is the Ministry of Railways. Ministry of Railways said that they will not be in a position to implement the contract, and they have enforced this force majeure clause from the Indian Contract Act. So the next probable question is, which sections of the Indian Contract Act talks about the force majeure clause? That is, section 32 and section 56 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 talks about the force majeure clause. And Indian Contract Act was enacted in 1872. And next important questions based on the same topic is about the GST. So GST is an indirect tax reform that was brought by the government of India in 2016. The next question which could be asked is GST Council a constitutional body, statutory body, executive body, or advisory body? So most of you might think, most of you might point it as executive body or a statutory body, but the GST Council is a constitutional body. It is a constitutional body similar to UPSC or state public service commissions, the Comptroller and Auditor General. So these are constitutional bodies. GST Council was also given constitutional status by the 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, which was enacted by the Union Parliament in 2016. So GST Council is a constitutional body, and who heads the GST Council? Finance Minister is the ex officio chairman of the GST Council. So that is something you need to know about GST Council. And which article of the Indian Constitution talks about GST Council? That is Article 279A. So these are some of the important points that should be remembered with respect to GST and also the force majeure and the act of God, which was cited by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. At the same time, I would like to bring your attention to another question. That is, the CLAT consortium might frame a question like this: a person, this person was a former president of the BCCI, and currently he is a Minister of State for Finance. Who is he, or who is the person we are talking about? So this could be one of the probable questions which can be asked by the consortium. So the answer to this question is Anurag Thakur. Anurag Thakur is the current Minister of State for Finance, and he was also the former chairman of BCCI. So similar questions were asked by uh, the consortium with respect to Nobel Prize. So you must have read them. And the third important topic on which I would like to discuss the questions is the suspension of key parliamentary tools in the monsoon session of the parliament. If you look recently, that is on 14th of September, the monsoon session of the parliament has commenced. So why did the monsoon session of parliament commence amidst this uh, COVID-19 pandemic? Because the constitution mandates that, the constitution says that the parliament shall meet at least, or to put it in other way, the maximum gap between two sessions of the parliament should not exceed 6 months, which effectively means that the union parliament should meet at least twice a year. This is because the maximum duration between two sessions should not exceed 6 months. So this means the parliament must meet twice in a year. So in order to uphold this constitutional mandate and in order to pass some of the key legislations, the union parliament has commenced its monsoon session on the 14th of September. So some of the major highlights of this 14th of the monsoon session of the Union Parliament is that the suspension of key parliamentary tools. So two major parliamentary tools were suspended for this session. One is the question hour and two is a private members legislation. And there is another parliamentary tool which we call the 0 hour. It was not suspended, it was not abolished, but it was restricted. That is, it was restricted only to half an hour. Earlier it was for 1 hour and now they made it to half an hour. Now let me discuss what is question hour. So question hour is a parliamentary tool. This is an hour. This is an hour soon after the commencement of the session of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So this generally is the first hour in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. In this particular hour, the members can raise questions and they can make the ministers or they can make the executive accountable to the same. So there are three types of questions in question hour. So what are they? One is a start question, two is unstart question, and three is short notice question. So what is a start question? Start question is something to which the minister should answer the question orally in the parliament, which means that supplementary questions can follow. Say for example, a question was raised on the conduct of examinations in India. So when the minister answers it orally, so there is a scope for supplementary question as well. So supplementary question can be asked in the start question. Second is unstart question. Unstart question is a question to which answer can be given by the minister in a written format, which means supplementary questions cannot follow because it is a written format answer. And third is short notice question. For short notice question, the question has to be given 10 days before and the minister will answer the question in the house. So this is a brief idea about question hour, and they can frame the questions from the question hour as well. And 0 hour, it is a 1 hour session in which members will raise matters of urgent public importance. And next thing which was curtailed is the private member legislation. So the private member legislation allows the private members. Private members are the members other than ministers in the parliament. So they might ask a question: which of the following statements is or are true with respect to private members? Number one option, they'll give that the members other than the ministers, and two, they might give the members other than the members of the ruling party. So you might think ruling party members are also government members. No, only the ministers constitute the executive, or only the ministers are part of the government. Other members are considered as private members, and any legislation which is introduced other than a minister is considered to be a private member bill, and this provision is suspended in the monsoon session of the parliament which has commenced in the recent past. And yes, another important question is the 0 hour concept, whichever is there, that doesn't have any statutory protection. That means no law in India talks about 0 hour. But question are is there in the rules and procedures of both houses of the parliament. Whereas 0 hour, it is just a convention. It doesn't have any statutory protection. Next topic is the government has banned 116 mobile apps. So earlier, government has banned 59 mobile apps, out of which the major ones include TikTok as well as ShareIt. And recently, other apps were banned. In that, the most famous one being PUBG and WeChat. So, what the CLAT consortium can confuse you by giving a question by asking the reason or the reasons behind the government, reason or reasons for the government to suspend these or to ban these mobile apps in India. So they will give some options. So the first option or one of the options in that question might be to control or to counter the Chinese aggression in the Galwan Valley region or the in the Galwan Valley region or around the area of the line of actual control. So most of you might mark this as a correct answer, but the answer is not that. So that is just an opinion or that is just an allegation which was made. But the actual reasons which are cited by the government are a threat to privacy of the individuals, threat to the sovereignty of the country, threat to integrity of the country, and threat to the defense of this country. If such reasons are given, mark them. And if any reason like to counter the aggression of China in the line of actual control, so such options are likely to be given by the consortium and you must not mark them. So they'll give such options to confuse you and to check how much informed you are. And which provision has empowered the government to take such initiative? That is section 69A of IT Act 2000. So when I'm discussing about section 69A of IT Act 2000, you must also recall section 66A of IT Act, which was actually considered as unconstitutional in Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. In Shreya Singhal versus Union of India, section 66A of IT Act was considered unconstitutional because it infringes upon the right to freedom of speech and expression. This also could be a probable question with respect to this topic. So they might give you a passage about this, about the ban of apps, and they might ask about the Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case. You must note this as well. Yeah. At the same time, so which ministry is responsible for this? That is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And the next question which could follow up is, who is the current minister for Electronics and Information Technology? It is Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad. He is also the law minister of this country. Next topic is about the Keshwanand Bharti case. So recently he died. So the questions which can be asked from this topic is, first thing, like what is they might ask the date, that is date on which the judgment was delivered, that is the 24th of April 1973. And who was the chief justice or who was the judge who headed the bench which gave the judgment in Keshwanand Bharti? It was the then chief justice Mr. Sikri or Chief Justice Sikri. And which is the largest constitutional bench in India? So the 13 judge bench which delivered the verdict in Keshwanand Bharti case is the largest constitutional bench in India. And on 24th April, Supreme Court delivered its verdict in the Keshwanand Bharti case. On 25th April, a person or some X was appointed as the Chief Justice of India by superseding 3 senior most judges. Who is the person we are talking about? So this could be one of the probable questions which could be framed, and the answer to which is Justice A.N. Ray. Justice A.N. Ray was appointed as the Chief Justice of India by superseding 3 senior most judges soon after the verdict delivered in the Supreme Court in the Keshwanand Bharti versus State of Kerala in 1973. And Which legislation was challenged by Keshwananda Bharati in his case? So the answer is the Kerala Land Reforms Act. So these could be some of the questions about Keshwananda Bharati case. However, I have not discussed too much about Keshwananda Bharati because already I made a separate video or an entire video about Keshwananda Bharati case, and if you haven't watched it, just go and watch the same. I'll provide the link in the description. And next topic is about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Two Shanghai Cooperation Organizations or two Shanghai meetings were held in the September of 2020. One is the Shanghai Defense Ministers Meet, which was held in Moscow, that is the capital of Russia, wherein our Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, and his Chinese counterpart, Wei Fenghe. Wei Fenghe is a Chinese defense minister. Both of them held talks to peacefully resolve the border tensions which are taking place in the line of actual control. And another important thing is the Shanghai External Affairs Ministers Meet. In the External Affairs Ministers Meet, India's External Affairs Minister, Mr. Subramaniam Jaishankar, and Chinese Minister, Mr. Wang Yi, both had come up with a 5-point formula. So India and China agreed with a 5-point formula. There are 5 points, and if you are interested, just go through those 5 points. Now, in the CLAT examination, they might ask a question that earlier in the year 1954, a 5-point pact was signed between India and the Tibet region of China. So what is that? That is the Panchsheel Agreement. So Panchsheel Agreement was signed in 1954. So that could be one of the probable question. And this Panchsheel deal, it was an agreement on trade, as well as it was an agreement on trade and intercourse between India and the Tibet region of China. So these are some of the important questions with respect to Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And I hope that this session is helpful and you must have got some insights about the probable current affairs questions and the way in which the CLAT consortium is asking the questions in the 2020 examination. So that's all for this session. Bye bye. See you all in the next video.